Welcome back to Valencia for the European Talent Cup Series 2 race here in Valencia around the Ricardo Tormo circuit. As you can see, a 4-kilometre circuit here and a 17-lap race for these riders in the ETC Series 2 Championship. So for all these riders, the exact same length of race as what we just had for the European Talent Cup. The riders we're about to see didn't qualify for the European Talent Cup races, but with a field quite as big as this, with 63 riders in the European Talent Cup, it's inevitable that we're going to have some riders failing to make the feature races, but they do get the opportunity to show their skills here in the Series 2 ETC race. Track conditions, as you can see, pretty much the exact same as we've had all the way through the day, 21 degrees. But we didn't see the oranges this time, Fran.
We didn't see the oranges, and we got a bit of Fahrenheit action there as well. I believe there may be a couple of USA runners in this field as well, so we're maybe trying to help out our friends across the Atlantic there who were very confused by the 26-degree track temperatures in Celsius. Yeah, if you're coming from across the pond, Scott Tyler's in this race as well. Keep an eye out for the number 2. And there's also another Californian-born rider with the number 32 machine, the Finnish rider Jenny Raikkonen, and we'll be able to keep an eye out for her progress through this race. You can see there on the pole position, though, that all these riders, they've got the exact same pressures, Fran, as what we saw in the European Talent Cup race as well. They want to go out and show exactly what they can do. Second on the grid is the number 80 of David Alonso, and the Madrid native starting from second on the grid. And he'll certainly be looking to make sure that he's able to have a good run through, because in Estoril, he actually was in the main races and finished on the podium in Estoril. Yeah, so a bit of a disappointment for him to find himself here in Valencia. But yeah, so it's just behind his compatriot Mario Mayor on the grid there. So yeah, it should be a pretty interesting one, I think, with such pace shown by a few of these. And here we have aforementioned Finn. Yeah, Raikkonen. I've butchered her name once already, but so why not do it again?
Well, give me time. But for Jenny there on the front row of the grid, the number 32, the Finnish rider born in California, but with the opportunity to race here in the European Talent Cup, and certainly a good performance there to put it on the front row of the grid. You can see as we move on to the second row of the grid, it's Sama Gorba, the Hungarian rider, and for Sama, born in Budapest, and again, another rider that didn't actually qualify in Estoril, but does have plenty of starts in the European Talent Cup. 11 starts with a best result in the feature races of 17th at the flag.
Yeah, so you can see, obviously, some of these guys had a bit of a worse day and now looking to, get a bit of a consolation prize in this race. But, of course, as well, plenty more experience and racing experience at that. It's not just doing a few more laps or doing another session. They will be racing. So, yeah, pretty important for these guys. And here's Angelo Tagliarini, which is a lovely name. And, yeah, he's fifth on the grid, so yeah, pretty good position there. We've seen today most of the guys who haven't actually been on that left-hand side of the grid have actually got a bit of a better start in the lower categories. Yeah, Alex Tagg, only 13 years of age, and you'd certainly expect to be able to see him try and come up through the field during this race. But is that Ford lining up as well, or? Well, you never know. It could easily happen, but now that we've got the footage here with Dean Berta on the grid, he's certainly going to hope that he's not going to have a focus coming from behind him. He's going to hope that he's the focus of attention at the front of the field. Yeah, you can see a Road to MotoGP logo on the leathers there, and also Maverick Vinales. So I'd be hoping he gets a little bit better start than his compatriot of late in this race, but pretty good starting position for him. And you can see plenty of people hanging around to see this final race of our day. And then we have a support race of the Cuna de Campeones out afterwards. And then we have Noah Detweiler there, who has scored a point actually so far this season. Yeah, finished in 15th spot in Estoril and was in the top 20 in both races, was Detweiler. So the Basel-born rider certainly going to try and... Basel-born? Basel. Well, come on, give it some flair. Let's call him the bear from Basel then. But Mario Mayer is the man on pole position from David Alonso and Raikkonen. I'm going to go for Soma Gerber and go with German style with the umlaut accent. And then we have Angelo Tagliarini and Dean Berta on row 2. Detweiler, Volpi and Mogera on that third row of the grid. And then we have Cavadini, Lapierre and Plonk on row 4.
Aubrey Rodriguez and Dupasquier there. We saw his brother in the Moto 3 class.
And then we have Justin Fouquet and Bin Asman and Molino on row 6.
I'll tell you what, it's a good thing you got Justin's name there, Fran. But Marco Gaggi on the 7th row of the grid from Perron and Conenchi.
And then Bin Zamri, Henry and Scott bringing up the rear there. Probably Henri would have been a better pronunciation than Henry. But,
all right, Henry.
Yes, so yeah, another packed grid here. 8 rows of bikes again. So yeah, should be another great ETC race here.
Yeah, 17 lap race for these riders, and you can see the grid starting to clear. Number 86 on pole position, that is Mario Mayer. Will he be the mayor of Valencia after this one, though?
Mayor, come on, Spanish it.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's hope he just doesn't have a mayor then in this race.
Hey, there we
but
go.
for the 86 on the pole position there, and all these riders just trying to get themselves ready on the grid. You can see the number 35 with a bit of a problem. That's Marius Henry, just struggling to get his bike started. You can see his mechanic just needing to give him a hand. Hopefully they're able to get that bike started. We've seen it though, Fran, already through the course of this season. Some of these riders struggling to get those bikes started can be a little bit tricky.
We have indeed, the starts in Estoril. Certainly we had some big drama with pole position man not able to take his spot. So it looks like Henri, not Thierry, will sadly be heading to pit lane to start this race. But see if he can get out on the sighting lap and then a line up at the back. So unfortunately not a great qualifying for him, so it wouldn't affect him too much if he does have to start from the back. But yeah, we'll have to see if he's able to sort that out. Not sure what problem that was for the Frenchman.
And you can see the field all making their way down in towards turn 1 now, and down in towards turn 1, this is a real tricky corner to try and get right on any of these races. It funnels down into a single line. You can easily get yourself caught out. We've seen lots of riders having to take the wide exit and exceed the track limits on the exit of turn 1. It's easy to get yourself caught out through there.
Yeah, it is certainly one Lorenzo Fallon, certainly the biggest offender of the day in terms of that in the other 2 ETC races, the Frenchman. But yeah, it is super easy to run wide after turn 1, and obviously if you make a mistake or on the first lap, it's bound to, you know, be a bit of a crazy shuffle there at the start. That's okay, but it's if you do repeatedly sort of take advantage of the fact that there is that space there, and yeah, use it to gain an advantage. So that green stuff's okay now, but once we're racing, definitely something to avoid.
Yeah, for all these riders, you need to make sure that you're able to stay within the track limits, because the race direction has been really stringent on making sure that they're punishing anyone that runs a little bit afoul of that. So here in the European Talent Cup Series 2 race, all these riders with a 17 lap race ahead of them, and as we said, Fran, lots of riders, and you can see the number 35 there of Henri. He is going to be ready to start from pit lane. But lots of riders in this class, Fran, that have experience in the ETC, have scored points in the ETC, but it just hasn't worked out for them this weekend. Yeah,
exactly. So there's some good names in this field to look out for. And yeah, some point scorers, like we said. And yeah, certainly the likes of David Alonso, a bit of a surprise to see him in this race. But should mean we get another quality scrap from these lads and lasses in this field.
Yeah, as you mentioned, for David Alonso there, of course, he was a podium man in Estoril, finishing the top 10 in both races. So you'd expect to keep an eye on the number 80 to be able to see that 13-year-old from Madrid make some progress. It is the 86 that's on pole position, though, and Mario Mayer on the pole position, and we'll see what he's able to do. Mayor on pole from Alonso, and then we've got Jenny on the outside, the front row, Jenny Räikkönen, and we'll see what she can do on the number 32 machine. All the riders now just getting themselves ready on the grid. Flags being waved
yellow again. So
the back, and we should be clear now. So the flagman at the front makes way, and Mayor on pole. Is he going to be able to try and convert this into an early hole shot? The red lights are on, and the races go, and it looks like it's a good start there from Mayor on pole position. Jennifer made a bad start there, losing out some ground on the run down in towards turn 1, but it looks like the number 80's made a good start there. Alonso, of course, podium man in Estoril, down in towards turn 1. Is everyone going to be able to make their way through turn 1 cleanly? And it looks like everyone has been able to make it through turn 1, and it looks like it's the 86 out in front, but Alonso trying to get down the inside. Podium man in the feature races, the regular races in the European Talent Cup in round 1, and he's through to the front here, Fran.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he'll now start to immediately try stretching away out the front. Like we said, bit of a surprise to see him in this race. Bit wide there, though. Certainly looking to give Major an opportunity to strike back fairly quickly there. But yeah, off the front row, it was Jenny who lost out. The Finnish rider, Ruokalainen. Great name. Love all Finnish names. That's no different, but they are awfully challenging. So yeah, she's been looking to make up a few places down from 7th or 8th now. Back down there she is. So yeah, not a great start from her, but Noah Detweiler was certainly someone to capitalise, and now the Swiss rider up into 3rd.
Yeah, good start from Detweiler on that 44 machine. He's up there in 3rd position, as Fran says. Behind that, we've got Gorba, the Hungarian rider, and Mogera inside the top 5 positions as well. The front of the field, though, it's that man, David Alonso, out in front from Mario Major. And out in front is exactly what Alonso wants to be, Fran. He wants to try and stretch this lead.
Yeah, exactly. He, I would imagine, is betting on himself, just as we are betting on him to be a serious contender in this race, and immediately getting to work, trying to just up that pace and try and edge away, or at least only bring a few riders with him if they can keep that pace at the front, and just make sure there's no too crazy group squabble there to get involved in. Obviously, the #1 way to lose time.
Yeah, if you start fighting with the riders around you, you do start to lose a lot of time in the European Talent Cup. That's what we saw in the feature races, race 2 in particular, where the race winner was able to stretch out an early lead. You can see the 44 of Detweiler gets himself through into 2nd position. It looked there actually like Major just broke really early on the way into turn 1, because he got immediately engulfed by the riders around him, including the 42 there of Gorba. But is Gorba going to be able to try and make a run to get himself up into 3rd position? It looks like right now that Major just losing a bit of time there, Fran. You need to try and be aggressive, try and make the move as early as possible. He's just trying to ghost down that inside. Down into turn 6, you'd imagine he's going to try and make a move. Yeah, looking pretty racy behind him. I know you hate that phrase, so I'm going to use it for the 3rd or 4th time today. But this top 5 here have certainly made an early break. And yes, some names you'd expect to see in there, and not least of all David Alonso, who currently leads. But yeah, by no means a done deal, though. At the moment, there's plenty of time for these guys to squabble. But Alonso at the front certainly starting to pull out a gap and showing some serious pace, much like his namesake with a couple more wheels. Yeah, all these riders in helmets, leathers, and sitting on a race bike, they all look racy to me, but David Alonso out in front certainly looks the raciest of them all. It's a phrase I hate too, but you know, just got to take the opportunities when they arise. Well, it's a long day for the CV riders here, and with all the racing that we have, the ETC riders, not even the last riders out on track, because we do have the Spanish Junior Championship as well out in action after this. Cuna de Campeones, we do the Valencian track project to discover some talents, and won't spoil things too much, but they've not had a bad day. So yeah, great to see some more youngsters getting ready to go out on track later, and we see the classic move there, just tapping the back of the bike, stick behind me, I've got the pace. But it remains to be seen if he does. The one thing about that is we did see in race 2 of the European Talent Cup that if you don't work together, you can let the rider out in front stretch out that lead. You can indeed. There is some merit to it. It's just whether it'll be listened to, really, I think. And you can see there the 42, the Hungarian rider, trying to get down the inside into 3rd position. Gorba is able to make that move on Detweiler, nice and clean, but is he going to leave himself open for attack as well? It looks like the Hungarian has been able to hold on to that spot, but just out in front there from Detweiler, actually able to just attack straight back on the 44 to stay out in front. Good riding from the Swiss rider in that scrap for 2nd position, but it looks like the 42 trying to attack once again. Gorba down the inside, takes 2nd position. All this squabbling though, Fran, it can cost you that bit of ground. The race leader, David Alonso, out in front on the number 80 machine. Yeah, most definitely can, and yeah, it's always a bit of a squabble here, but you've got to sort of nominate your pace setter if you think the guy ahead is going to be able to escape. And so far, so good for Alonso. These guys have got to decide, right, okay, one of us is going to go. We're going to line astern, line up, and try and hunt him down. Otherwise, it's going to be over, the fight for the win. Yeah, and with Alonso, you would imagine he's going to be able to set a really consistent pace. Podium man in Estoril, he's got that bit of confidence, even if he's having to come through the Series 2 race here in Valencia. but in behind him it is still Detweiler on the 44, out in front of Samogorba on the 42, and then Mario Major, the pole man for this race, in 4th position, just in front of Matti Volpi. So for all these riders in the front 5, Fran, you gotta just try and make sure you don't cost each other times, that you're all able to have a 5-way scrap for the race victory, because as you can see, there's already that big gap opening between Volpi on the 77 and the 78 of Daniel Magoda down in 6th position.
Yeah, it's just over 4.5 seconds, that difference, so pretty big. But at the moment, though, it seems like they've been able to reel in a little bit of time on Alonso on that last time around when they calmed it down a little bit. So Detweiler not doing a bad job on that number 44 machine. I say that, and then he has a bit of a squiggle. But all collected up there for the Swiss rider, and Gorba sees his opportunity and straight through. Yeah,
Gorba straight back down the inside. These two, as we saw last time around as well, once one of them makes a move, they try and answer straight back. Exactly what you have to do. Gorba now up into 2nd spot, and he's right there on the wheels of Alonso as well, but you can see the 86 of Major down the inside of Detweiler into 3rd position now. And is Major going to try and attack straight away? You can see there again the 42 just saying stay with me, don't attack, but you can see you're going to be under attack straight away down in towards turn 8. Detweiler trying to get down the inside. Looks like he's bailed out of that a little bit, Fran, but still trying to be aggressive.
Held my breath a little bit there. Yeah, that looked like it was going to get pretty close, but at the moment I'd say it looks like Gorba may just have a slight edge on certainly Detweiler, who seemed to be struggling a little bit to keep up with Alonso, but at the moment the Spaniard's still fairly unbothered at the front. But yeah, you can see the Hungarian now right on the back of him, and looking to make a move soon, I would imagine. Yeah, the 42 being nice and aggressive in these early stages, just trying to make sure he's able to attack. And from Budapest, he's going to just make sure that he's able to try and put himself into a position here, Fran, to be able to attack on Alonso. Of course, for all these riders, young riders, only 13 years of age for Gorba in 2nd spot, and for David Alonso as well in the lead of this race, 13 as well. So not too much experience there, but all these riders just trying to make sure that they're able to use their racecraft, get themselves to the front, as you can see with the 44 of Detweiler just trying to get down the inside, and he does make that move stick into 3rd position there for the Swiss rider. A little bit wide there, the Swiss rider there, just hitting some of that green stuff. And Gorba seems a lot more patient now. He's caught up with leader Alonso. A little bit of a moment there for the race leader, but nothing too much. And the Hungarian now swarming all over the back of him, and there he goes through for the move. So immediately struck for the lead has Gorba. Yeah, great move there from Gorba to get himself up into the lead of this race. And the 42's just picked off riders in front of him. Good, clever riding from Gorba. He's looked really strong all the way through those opening sectors of the lap, but you can see left himself open for attack through turn 6. So while Gorba seems quite strong through turns 3 and 4, it looks like he has been leaving himself open for attack onto this long back straight. So Alonso out in front once again. You can see there with Major just trying to attack down in towards turn 8. All these riders, Fran, seem to have their bikes working in different sectors. They're all trying to pick up their speed in slightly different ways. They're all focusing on different corners to be their strength. Yeah, it's a little bit of a concertina, isn't it? Certainly with this front 4 at the moment. But yeah, it looks like the 77 of Mattia Volpi just finding it a little bit hard to keep up with this front 4 at the moment, and just dropping back off the rear end of this group. As is Detweiler a little bit, but obviously, like you said, it seems to change sector by sector and corner by corner.
Down the inside goes Gorba.
It's getting dicey now at the front between these guys. Have to be careful, because it looks like they certainly have the pace to try and whittle this down to a group of 3 or 4, and don't want to slow themselves up too much. But yeah, some good moves from these guys so far. Looks like Gorba's going to try and hang in there. Yeah, Gorba not quite able to make the move around the outside into turn 1, but he's going to switch back down the inside. It's going to set him up for a move down in towards turn 2. Is he going to be able to leave the braking late enough to try and attack on Alonso? He's actually going to be under attack himself from Major, but able to hold on to second position there. There's the steal to cut straight back in. But, solid stuff. Yeah, the Hungarian certainly not looking like he wants to hang about at all. It looks like he thought about a move there down the inside. Yeah, you can see there from Gorba, just a lot faster on the entry down into turn 4. That's where he made the move for the lead last time around. Is he going to try and return the favour here on Alonso and make the move into turn 6? He's not quite close enough to do that, but he leaves the door wide open for Major just to come down the inside. So Major now the pole man up into second spot, tapping that seat unit, just trying to sell all these riders just to keep themselves calm, keep themselves together. But it doesn't work like that in the European Talent Cup.
and Major, he needs to make sure he's able to attack the race leader. We saw in the run down in towards the last corner that last time around you were able to make the move on Alonso. Is Major going to be close enough to try and attack that? We're only at 1/3 distance here, but already it is a pretty clear split that's happened at the front of the field with those leading 4 riders. Detweiler just doing what he can, Fran, just to stay in touch.
Yeah, and it seemed to me like Gorba had a slight advantage on Major through the last few laps. So it seems a little bit strange as well when you don't really have to catch a leader. He's right there. No need to tap that seat unit too much. But these guys, we've seen that all throughout the day in all classes, pretty much except Moto 2, which appears to be the point at which they grow out of it. But yeah, it's a good battle so far at the front here, and Major right back in it after a little bit of a tougher start. We'll have to see who is that. The number 99 from the helmet looks like one of the Dynavolt bikes. So disappointment there. We've had a fallout out the front group. Hungarian Gorba has gone down, so shame for him after looking really strong through the first third of this race.
Yeah, and for Gorba, we did see him having just the pace to be really aggressive with the riders around him. He's down and out, and you can see there the 99 down as well, and that is Hazik Zamri on the Dynavolt bike. But for the 42 to go down out of this race, Fran, Sama Gorba, he's looked like he's had that pace to be able to
he really has. I was thinking he was looking a little bit stronger than Major even. So far, I'd say my money's on Alonso, pretty calm and collected at the front. But yeah, certainly looked like he was going to be a key player in this race. So a bit of a heartbreaker for Gorba. Have to see if we get a replay of that crash. Hopefully it was just a rider error, and he's paid his own price there for that one. And up and okay, which is the main thing. But now you can really see that gap back to Detweiler. That's really pronounced it. Now we've lost that rider out of P3, and it'd be interesting to see if the Swiss rider can just tag back onto the back of the Spanish duo.
Yeah, last time around, Detweiler did lose a few tenths of a second to those race leaders as well. It does look like Alonso and Major have just been able to stretch out a little bit of a lead over Detweiler in 3rd position, and you can see there for Alonso, of course, the Madrid man, and just trying to make sure that he's able to get himself to the front of this group and stay at the front. He knows he wants to try and stay out of trouble all the way through this race, Fran.
Yeah, exactly, and he's done that very, very well so far. Just a nice, calm time for him at the head of this race. But Mattia Volpi now, he can smell a podium. Now there's only 3 guys ahead of him. You know, whatever happens in this group, there's always a chance to pick that up, or there's still a good few laps left in this race, still 10 laps to go to try and bridge that gap. So who knows what can happen in the latter half of this race. But certainly Volpi now will just feel maybe a little bit of frustration there that he did drop off the back of this group. Now it is a real fight for the podium, and essentially just to decide the order of the podium between this trio rather than who's going to be on it or not.
Yeah, and Detweiler's done a really good job in this lap to be able to just bring himself back to those race leaders. Last time around he was 3 tenths of a second faster than the race leader David Alonso, and he's just been able to maintain that pace and be able to close down that gap on the 2 race leaders. You can see the 86 of Major just trying to take that tight line on the entry into turn 6. He's just thinking about what he needs to do to try and make some moves on Alonso to take this race lead as we move towards the second half of proceedings. But the pole sitter Major running up there in 2nd position, and of course the race leader David Alonso, we saw him on the podium in Estoril last time out, and Detweiler, he was scoring points last time out in Estoril in the feature races. So there is experience at the front of this field, Fran.
Yeah, most definitely there is. And yeah, at the moment looks like these two are just able to edge that little bit out again on Detweiler. But yeah, the Swiss rider doing a pretty solid job to stay in there. And yeah, it's not too far at the moment, about half a second off the winner. The winner, ooh, that's prophetic maybe. The leader last time around. But then we have some more sizable gaps. But there's another duel as well for 5th between Gabin Plonk and Siafrid. I'm trying to say Khairuddin too much is my problem.
Siafruddin
Azman, exactly, the Malaysian in P6. So yeah, just a couple of tenths between those two, and some good little fights through the field. But at the moment, this trio fighting it out for the win is our key focus here. And Detweiler again seems to have cut down that gap, and yeah, just about a tenth off that, and he's now 4 tenths off the rider ahead of him, and even closer now you can see visually.
Yeah, and race direction once again just offering some track limits warnings to riders. It's Mogada down in the lower reaches of the top 15 that's been given the warning. But you can see, Fran, a lot of riders once again running wide onto those green painted areas. You can't do that. You have to stay within the track limits. You have to stay within those white lines. And you can see the gap that has developed now with Detvaler. I thought I saw a flash of him in the background. Detvaler out of this race. He had been running in third position, and he's dealing with it really well there, Detvaler, but he had been running in third position, and Fran, that's disappointing for him.
It is, wow, full on every frustration you can see there in the
That's one of the best rider tantrums I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, bit of a heartbreaker for him. Like we said, it seemed to be working a little bit harder than these guys to just keep that pace at the front or near to it, and it was doing a really, really solid job. So yeah, sad for the Swiss rider, and I think it'll take him a while to calm down from that, judging by those trackside histronics.
Yeah, for
Volpi, didn't I say now? You see, if something's going to happen at the front, he's going to sniff him Podium, and now he certainly seems to have, but not if he carries on like that too much. Just needs to keep it a little bit calmer and make sure he doesn't throw that chance away for himself, because he's got an awful lot of clear air behind him, a few seconds worth.
He's got 8 seconds behind him.
We have, yes, a long
as well,
time.
So a lot of gap behind him, but at the front of the field it is still Alonso leading the way from Major, but Major trying to get down the inside into turn 1, leaves the braking late, lets go with that brake, down in towards turn 1, carries that speed through there, gets himself into the front of this race, and Mario Major now out in front. Is Alonso going to try and answer him back? Alonso needs to attack down in towards turn 6. That's where he made his moves earlier on, but we have seen with Major, he's tried to take those tight lines on the entry into 6. He's been setting up how he needs to ride this race, but through turn 4 they go. Is Major going to be far enough out in front to be able to leave himself where he's not under attack into 6? Still half this race to go, 7.5 laps, so Major is certainly going to know that it's still got a lot of race left in this, and a lot of time for him to try and stay out in front.
Yeah, most definitely is. And we've had a few duels today in the day of racing we've had at Valencia, and this one looks like it's going to be another one. And so far, a pretty interesting one. Oh, I wondered if he was going to just go for that one, which is going to be a little bit optimistic, and you see Mayor there really defensive around there, making sure he's keeping the lead. But these guys, of course, even if they do squabble a little bit, as evidently Alonso wants to start, they have got a fair amount of space behind them back to Volpi, who now will be on that podium if he can keep that together in third. So at least there's not too much pressure at a huge gaggle of riders really nipping at their heels to try and catch them up.
Yeah, you said that Volpi might have a sniff of a podium. I'll tell you what, if Alonso keeps making moves down the inside like that, Volpi might have a sniff of more than that.
Yeah, looking a little bit feisty out front at the moment. These guys just need to calm it down a little bit. But you see good drive there from Alonso. It looks like he's going to try a different tack and maybe a slightly more sensible one here. You can see just a header there over the line as well. So that could be crucial come the last lap. But yeah, heading down into turn 1 now. We have our earlier race leader back in control here, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be a duel to the end though at the moment. Those two guys pretty evenly matched.
Volpi up there in third position. The gap between him and Gabin Planck is round about that 6 seconds, with the Frenchman up in 4th position, so he's going to be relying on issues impacting the riders in front of him. That's Asman inside the top 5 as well, and Asman's certainly looking like he's doing a pretty solid race up to this point as well.
Sharifudin, got it now.
Fair play to Fran, because there's a lot of names down this list that I'm not going to be able to say.
Just such a big fan of Zulfami Karadin, really. But yeah, so here we can see Alonso still in that lead at the moment, but it's a very, very small gap between those two. And yes, some solid results for those guys just further back. Gabin Planck, a little bit surprising to see him in this race as well, but he's managed to plonk himself in a good top 5 position, and he'll be pretty eager to hold on to that, certainly. And we have Ruukalainen in 6th at the moment, so losing out a bit on that front row start, but certainly well in good point scoring contention there and well within the top 10.
Tell you what, with a pun like that for Planck, it's almost like your headline rider, Fran. But at the front of the field, you can see Alonso on the number 80, still able to hold on to that lead. We're down in towards the final third of the race now, and Alonso, every time that there's been any questions asked of him, Fran, he's been able to answer straight back to Major. He's been able to attack straight back, and he's been able to get himself through to the front of this group.
Yeah, exactly. This group, this duo, this duel, this grudge match between these two Spaniards here.
Grudge match is a bit strong, I'd
maybe
imagine.
a little bit strong.
give them until the rest of the season though, and it'll definitely be a grudge match.
Sure. You can see Mayo looked like he was even tempted pretty late to have a quick look up the inside into turn 1 there, but no. Nothing coming out of it from the Spaniard, but yeah, I think this is going to be a duel to the end. We can safely say by this point, pretty evenly matched these two guys seem, and yeah, it's I've cursed Jenny Ruukalainen last time around, lost that 6th place. So Marceau Lapierre of France I didn't even mean to say it like that either, has overtaken the Finn. But yeah, got some pretty good rides throughout the field there. And yeah, certainly Datweiler and the likes of Gorba will be a little bit disappointed that they're no longer in this race.
Yeah, Datweiler in particular, we saw that he'll have disappointment that's going to last for quite a while, you'd imagine. But 2 French riders inside the top 6 positions as it stands right now. And this is the scrap for what I think is 8th position, just further down the order to scrap for 6th position, with Jenny just at the front of that, Räikkönen on the 32 machine. So she's been able to pick up.
She's struck back fairly quickly then. No, so that's the battle for 7th then, it would seem. The graphics have aligned slightly there.
Too much changes of order here in the ETC Series 2 race, and we're going to have plenty more changes of order in the final 5.5 laps. There is one change of order further down that group as well, and one rider just looks like he's voluntarily taking a long lap penalty there as well. But very easy to run in a little bit too hot whenever you're in these kind of groups. That's why it's so important whenever you're in this one-on-one battle for the lead, that you're able just to focus on everything around you. 5 laps to go now for David Alonso out in front, and he's just out in front from the pole sitter Mario Major, and only a couple of tenths of a second separating them, and that's about as big of a gap as we've seen between the two of them all the way through this race. Very evenly matched between the 2 race leaders. That's Mattia Volpi heading down in towards turn 1, and Gavin Plonk in 4th position as well. The gap between Plonk and Asman behind them around about 5 seconds, and then further 3 seconds back to Jenny Räikkönen. But at the front of the field, Fran, certainly looks like we're just going to have that all-out scrap between Alonso and Major for the run to the line, because with 4.5 laps to go, it doesn't look like there's anything separating them.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't. Just a couple of tenths. And yeah, still locked in this duel at the front, the 2 Spaniards. And certainly the class of the field here, I think they've made a good point. Having obviously Alonso, like we said, some certainly better performances in Estoril. So doing everything he can to try and make sure he at least wins this race, and then gets in the main races next time out in Catalonia. It will be actually for these guys rather than Le Mans. That's just Moto3.
Yeah, and that's the good thing for these riders in the ETC. Whenever there's 63 riders in the field, it's very easy. If you don't qualify, you'd be disappointed. You don't learn anything from not racing. But at least for these riders that didn't qualify for the feature races, they still get a race, they still get some more experience, and hopefully they're able to put it to good use for the next round, as you said, in Catalonia at the start of June.
Yeah, exactly. But at the moment, it looks like these guys will be gunning for some glory here to head on to Catalan turf next time out. But yeah, I don't know. Wouldn't want to call it at the moment. Still very, very close together. And it was a little bit smaller, the gap that time around, but it's just oscillating between sort of 2.5 tenths, 1.5 tenths. Not much difference, really.
Yeah, and the big thing is, if you're the 86 of Mario Major, you're able to look at it as well. You're able to see exactly where your rival's strong. Alonso's been at the front for all but a couple of corners in this race, so Major knows exactly where Alonso's bike is working well. He's able to set up his strategy a lot easier for these final 3.5 laps. He's able to think about where does he want to try and make his moves. We saw it in the Moto3 race, just being able to pick the right time to make the move. You can get yourself through into those race wins, and that's why Mario Major is happy enough right now just to sit behind the race leader.
Yeah, exactly. And
I say that.
He just immediately proves you wrong there. But,
runs in too deep, though.
Nevertheless, this Spaniard will have learned an awful lot, like you say, sitting behind Alonso for that amount of time. Yeah, it's always a good idea to have a look at your rival. We saw that in Moto3 earlier in the day as well. One rider taking a while to check out the competition and then just switch over and try your hand at leading. But Alonso striking straight back there, and seems pretty content to lead this race.
yeah, for Mario Major, he just ran in a bit too hot into turn 6. Maybe just actually that's what set up the move as well. Clearly went in a bit too hot. Big look over the shoulder there for David Alonso, just making sure that he knows exactly where Mario Major is, and making sure as well that with the final 3 laps of the race that he's going to be able to put himself into the best position possible. You can see once again we're back into the scraps further down the field, and you can see all these riders just trying to come through the final sectors of the lap, and it is the number 17 that's at the front of this group, and that is Lapierre, and this is the scrap for 9th position now, and Lapierre just out in front of the 27 of Cavadini. It's actually the fight for 7th position, with Lapierre having gotten up to the front of this group. But easy to be mistaken with it, but it is the fight for 7th position there. Whenever they come across the line, we should have all of the timings updated, with the 17th of Lapierre up there in 7th position.
Oh, in 6th apparently as well. So
Jenny's had a crash.
Chopping and change. Okay, so we have lost finish rider.
There was a flash
line, and then
there was a flash in our timing screen saying there was a crash there, but it looks like it's actually still Jenny in that group, just losing positions down into 11th spot.
Yeah, seems to have dropped to the back of that group, has the Finn. So yeah, plenty of movement in there for that fight for 6th, and pretty extreme as well, the change in positions there. But at the front, it's all a little more you know, sort of measured and calm, but certainly not lacking any action, as once again Mayor has made a move for the lead. Alonso once again right behind him, tagged onto the back. Doesn't maybe look like he's gonna let him take it, but at the moment certainly Mayor able to get that move done and take over in the head of this race. Yeah,
Mayor now with a big look over his shoulder just to see where Alonso is. The 2 riders just making sure that the other knows just how cool and calm they are as we come towards the closing
say, like,
stages.
You know, however many laps later, I've got a clue for you. He's probably right behind you, because that's where he's been for most of this race. He's right in front now once again. Now he is, but not quite able to get that done.
Alonso trying to run around the outside of that final corner, and another look over the shoulder there for Mayor, and he's going to just let Alonso through across the line. Alonso able to use that slipstream to get himself up into the lead, and we have another long lap penalty being given. That's going to be for Moguera. He's been given a warning already in this race, so he's down the order in 10th position in that big scrap for 6th position that seems to confound me every time we go to it. But out in front, there's no confounding these 2 race leaders. David Alonso out in front from Mario Major. They've been there the whole way through this race. They've forced mistakes from rivals around them. They've opened up a massive gap. It's 12 seconds to Volpi behind them, but a massive door being opened there for Mario Major to get through into the lead. A lap and a half to go. Major leaves the door open for turn 5 to allow Alonso through, and both these riders now, they're just being tactic. This is like a cycling race now. You're just waiting to bolt. You're waiting to take advantage of your rival in front of you with 13 seconds behind them to Volpi. You've got plenty of time back there with a lap and a half to go. This is going to come down to a straight up fight on the last lap of the race. You'd imagine, Fran, it's going to basically be you're going to bolt out of the last corner, see if you're able to stretch away. If you can't, it just comes down to that last lap battle.
Yeah, it should do, and maybe even the last corner. We've seen already one of the races today decided there. It's a Valencia Classic, but these 2 at the moment, nothing between them. So like we say, after this lap, only 1 more to go, and yeah, it's don't want to put my money on either at the moment. Looking pretty ready for this duel, both of them. Yeah, I'm far too tight to put money down on the line here for the European Talent Cup Series 2 race here in Valencia, but we're down to a last lap battle, and it is Alonso and Major in this scrap with 4 kilometers left for them, and we've only got 14 corners left for these riders. That's the long lap penalty that is being taken there by... Nicely done. Nice and clean run through there for the number 78. Moguera able to take that penalty, and at least now he's able to see if he's able to still fight for those positions. But at the front of the field, Major able to get himself into the lead down in towards turn 1. Has he left himself open for attack down into turn 2? Alonso's going to try and attack down the inside on the number 80 machine. Is he close enough to make the move on Major? He is close enough, but Major's trying to run all the way around the outside, and that's really good riding from Major on the number 86 machine. He's going to try and slam the door shut on the run down into turn 4. Nice defensive line into the right-hander. Now the next opportunity for Alonso is going to be to try and make a move
into turn 6. And is Alonso close enough to try and make that move? Looks he's going to come from a long way back to try and make that move. Not close enough, so he's trying to set that move up on the run down into 6. But on the run down in towards turn 8, you're going to use that slipstream. Can you get close enough to try and be aggressive, to try and make a move down in towards the fast left hand? Trying to run around the outside there momentarily, Alonso, but the door is going to be a little bit ajar, not quite close enough to be able to try and make a move. The double right-handers down into 11 and 12. They're going to be the best opportunity now. And is Alonso close enough on the number 80 machine? Looks like he's going to try and get down the inside. Has to stand that bike up. He's had to lose his momentum now as well. Is he going to be too far back to try and make a move into the last corner? He needs a perfect run through turn 12 and into the uphill turn 13. He is close enough. If he's able to get the exit through this corner right and carry the speed all the way through turn 13, is he close enough to try and make a move down the inside into the last corner? Defensive line being taken by Major on the 86. He's been able to hold on to that position on the run into that final corner. Does he have the momentum across the line? It looks like the 80 of Alonso has been able to exit strong on that last corner, and it looks like Alonso's been able to do enough to take this victory in the ETC Series 2 race here at Valencia. And these two riders, they gave us a real show here in this race, and it is Alonso that's been able to take the flag by 600ths of a second, and behind them Volpi's able to finish third. Good performance there from the 658 rider to be able to finish inside the top 3. Plonk is up in the top 4 positions as well, and we wait for Asman to come across the line behind them. Top 5 position there for the Malaysian rider here in the European Talent Cup race. But these two riders at the front, they put on a real show for us with David Alonso. He was a podium man in the feature races in the European Talent Cup in Estoril round 1, and now he's been able to pick up the race victory here in the Series 2 race here in Valencia, round 2 of the European Talent Cup. And you'd certainly expect to see Alonso able to get himself back onto the feature races when the championship resumes in Catalonia at the start of June. But for the likes of Mario Major on that 86, he was of course able to finish in Estoril. He qualified for the feature races in Estoril, didn't score any points but was able to finish there, and he's been able to at least build on that for this race. And you can see there for Mattei Volpi able to do a little bit of a burnout there, a bit of a celebration there for the SICK 58 rider. He had 2 retirements in the opening races of the year in Estoril. Once again, he was able to get through into those feature races in Portugal. But you can see their confirmation. Alonso's been able to pick up this race victory in the Series 2 race here in Valencia for the European Talent Cup. He picks up that race victory 600ths of a second in front of Mario Major at the flag. The gap between them and Volpi at the flag, 14.5 seconds. They were really able to open up a big gap between themselves and Volpi in that scrap for the top 3. But Volpi, he can be pretty pleased to have been able to finish in third there. Didn't quite have the pace to go with those race leaders at all during this early proceedings, but we were able to see the likes of Detveller on the number 44 machine able to go with them, but not quite able to go close enough. We saw him have a crash during that race. But down in Parc Ferme, you can see there for the race leader, David Alonso, he can be pretty pleased with his performance there. Good smart ride and good clever racecraft to be able to take that race victory. But if you're Mario Major, you've got to be disappointed with yourself because you left that opportunity for Alonso to have that strong run across the line. But for Alonso, from that front row start, he was able to have a really good pace all the way through the race and able to pick up the race victory here in the Series 2 race of the European Talent Cup. And at least now for Alonso, he'll try and use that to build on that for the next round in Catalonia as well. Certainly a lot to be happy for if you're that Angel Nieto team. But it's been a pretty tricky weekend for them all in across the different classes here. Not quite like what we saw in Estoril, where they were able to claim both victories in the Moto3 race. And now here in the European Talent Cup, you can see down in Parc Ferme, all the riders a little bit muted. They know that in the Series 2 race is not quite the same as during the feature races trying to get these race victories. But for Mario Major, certainly he would have felt that he had the chance to win this race. You want to win every race you're in, and for Mario Major, he certainly would have felt that he had the opportunity to win that race. He led into that final corner and just got out dragged across the line. But for Volpi, he can be pretty pleased to have put himself up into those top 3 positions down in Parc Ferme. You can see Paolo Simoncelli there in the background as well. And as Fran said, Paolo very positive about the riders he has on his roster here in the CEV Championship, whether it's in the Moto 3 class or in the ETC as well. And all those riders being supported, all those riders being nurtured and being taught exactly what they need to do to try and make the next step up in their careers. Down in Parc Ferme though, it's all about David Alonso and the race victor here in Series 2 of the ETC, able to claim that victory. And you would certainly expect to see the man that finished on the podium in Estoril back in the feature races once we get to the next round of the championship in Catalonia at the start of June. But for all these riders, they've now got the best part of 6 weeks off to try and just get themselves ready for that next race, see what they can learn. But we'll see what the race victor David Alonso has to say. He's down in Parc Ferme with Fran Wild.
So that was a pretty incredible race and a duel right to the end and just down to the final corner. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was a very good race. It was very interesting because in the last corner I was in the second position and I'm very happy. It's thanks to my team and to my sponsor and to my family that support me. And this is a race that, well, in the start I was very good, but then they catch me and we were fighting, but finally I win and I'm very happy.
¿Y en castellano también?
Ha sido una carrera muy interesante y la he luchado. Al principio me intenta escapar, pero no he podido y entonces me han cogido. Después hemos tenido adelantamientos y ha sido muy interesante porque en la última vuelta todavía no se sabía quién iba a ganar y finalmente ganó yo, gracias a mi equipo y a mi familia.
Muchísimas gracias y enhorabuena.
So David Alonso, our race victor here in the European Talent Cup Series 2 race, and Alonso able to take that victory, as you can see there, by 600ths of a second from Mario Major, with Matteo Volpi up there inside the top 3 positions as well. That big scrap for 6th position ended up going the way of Lapierre, the Frenchman, able to finish in 6th, and at the flag he was actually closing in on Asman in front of him as well, with Cavadini, Rodriguez and a host of other riders in that scrap for 6th. Daniel Mogeda we saw have a long lap penalty at the very end of that race, and that dropped him down to 11th, just in front of Angelo Tag, and Taglierini able to finish inside 12th position there. And then further down the order you can see the list of riders here for the European Talent Cup. We saw Marius Henry have a problem on the starting grid, but able to come through to finish in 18th spot. There were some retirements during the course of that race, none more so important than Noah Detveler, who crashed out of this race down in the right-handers at the start of the lap and out of contention for those top 3 spots. He was very much there or thereabouts with the race leaders all the way through this. But as we get ready for the riders on the podium, it's all about David Alonso. He was on the regular podium in Estoril, and now here in the Series B race, he's back up there on the podium, this time on the top step of the podium, just in front of his big rival from this race, Mario Major, the pole sitter, able to finish in 2nd spot. You can see the very different stature between the 2 riders there, with Major a little bit older than the race victor Alonso, and Volpi as well a little bit taller than our race leader. But Volpi did well to finish there inside the top 3. The team representative there from the Angel Nieto junior team able to finish up there on the podium, and his rider able to claim the race victory. Volpi gets his trophy here for the Series B race. And now we should be able to see Mario Major get his trophy as well. But Fran Wyatt, you were just down in Parc Ferme there, and you were able to see from David Alonso just what it meant for him.
Yeah, I did indeed, and so small, and it was great to see as well a handshake between the two pretty much straight away before they even really left the bikes behind in Parc Ferme. You can see a very, very happy David Alonso there, and now we'll hear the Spanish national anthem, I'm sure.
Y el momento de celebrarlo en lo alto del podio con la gaseosa, que aquí ninguno sois mayores de edad, así que tranquilos. A ver quién es más rápido de todos, si Matías, Mario o David.
Maybe we won't hear the Spanish national anthem there then for David Alonso here in the Series 2 race for the European Talent Cup, as the riders just splash that sparkling water across one another. And for all these riders though, Fran, the European Talent Cup really does give them that opportunity to use as a stepping stone towards the Moto 3 class. But here in Valencia we saw some great racing across all the classes.
We did indeed, and unfortunately that is the end of our racing day now at the circuit Ricardo Tormo. So make sure to watch the Moto 3 Championship at Le Mans next time out alongside MotoGP guys. But then after that it's the Catalunya round for all of these classes, including Moto 2 and the ETC, and they'll all be back on track once again in about 6 weeks time at the start of June. So it should be another great round there, another great and important Grand Prix track.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us, and until then, we bid you adieu from Valencia.
We do. Adieu.